Hi, this is Charlotte back to do a lesson with you in regards to multiplying positive and negative numbers. So this is a subject that a few people get a little bit confused about. We don't normally cover it in the primary school curriculum, but it is something that will occasionally pop up in the 11 plus curriculum. You might see things like questions asking you to do input or output machines as an example, where there could be negative numbers involved. One of the things that we've noticed is that quite a few people do get a bit confused about what do you do when a negative number comes up when you're doing multiplication. There's some really good videos out there that explain things like what happens when you do a negative times a positive, and a positive times a positive, negative times a negative, and so on and so on. And what I'm going to do is link those videos to you in the comments section down below. Just before we get into that though, what I want to do is review a little bit of the knowledge base that we have about multiplication already to explain why it is that this multiplication works in the way it does. So going back to some very basic bits of what it means to multiply a number, all we actually mean by that is that we take a number and repeat it however many times we're multiplying it by. So as an example, when I say 4 multiplied by 3, what I actually mean is I've started at the number 0 and I've added 4 3 times to it. There's kind of an invisible plus sign in front of this 4 here. So as you probably know, we start at 0 and we have 1 4, 2 4s, 3 4s, taking us all the way up to the answer of 12. Same thing for if I'm doing, say, 2 times 5, it's 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, which equals 10. If I'm multiplying a negative number, exactly the same thing applies. The difference is that because this is a negative, we're decreasing the value of the number because we subtract every single time, as opposed to when we're multiplying, when we are adding the number to make it larger every single time. So as an example then, if I have 4 multiplied by 3, that is exactly the same as saying minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. So I'd start off at my 0 and I'd jump minus 4, another minus 4, and then my third negative 4 here, which would get me to a total of negative 4, negative 8, negative 12. So negative 12 has to be the answer. In exactly the same way, if I say negative 2 multiplied by 5, or 5 times negative 2, I'm jumping down from 0, negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10. So it's almost like there's a mirror line going down the centre of our number line from where the 0 is, and then we're just reflecting the times tables over in the other way. It doesn't matter whether I write it as 3 times negative 4, or negative 4 times 3, or 5 times negative 2, or negative 2 times 5. What we're doing with these numbers is exactly the same each time. Okay. So let's have a go at one practice question then. In this case, I've got negative 6 multiplied by 3. So that is the same as saying 0, minus 6, minus 6, and so on 3 times. So I'm going to go from 0 to my first negative 6. Then I'm going to take off another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to take off my third 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which gets me all the way down to negative 18 as my answer. This then is showing that I'm able to continue with this process in exactly the same way as I would for a positive number. Because if I jumped up going the other way to 6, 12, 18, we can see that we're making exactly the same amount of steps. We're just doing it going into the negatives instead of going into the positives. So that gets me my answer of minus 18. What it might be a good idea for you to do now is pause this video very quickly and have a go at the other 3 questions. See if you get those right. Okay, so hopefully you've now had a go at those. So we have negative 2 multiplied by 10. You could write out negative 2 10 times if you wanted to, or you could do the steps on the number lines. Or you could think, well, 2 times 10, I know that's 20. So if I'm just doing negative 2 multiplied by 10, that must be negative 20. And then here's the answers for 7 multiplied by negative 4, which would be exactly the same as negative 4 times 7. Or 12 times negative 1, which would be the same as saying negative 1 times 12. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to everyone. We've got lots of practice questions that we're going to put into our classroom that you can have a go of, or you could have a go at writing out some of your own questions to have a go at as well. Use your times tables basics and make sure that as long as you know the positive version of the multiplication, you know the version when there is a negative there as well. So let's go on to the next page. This is a good example of how we might end up applying this sort of knowledge of negative numbers to problem-solving questions. So this is one of the function machine questions that I'm sure you've seen tons and tons and tons of over the last year or so. I don't know where everyone keeps getting these function machines from, but apparently they're everywhere in maths. So Lisa's function machine multiplies the input by 2 and then subtracts 7. So the input number, whatever that is, we times by 2, then we take off 7, and that creates an output. So as an example, if I did the number 10, and I multiplied it by 2, that would be 20. And then if I take off 7 from 20, that would give me 14. Easy peasy. So the first question is just asking us what happens if I input the number 3. So in this case, I'm going to start off with 3 as my input. I'm going to multiply that by 2, which gives me 6. And now I need to do 6 subtract 7. So hopefully if you're watching this video, you've already done some of the work that we set about adding and subtracting numbers that take you into the negatives. So what we need to think about here, and we can use a number line to help us if you like, is I'm starting with 6, but I'm taking away a number that's larger than 6, so I'm going to go past 0 here. Well, I've had to take away 6 to get from 6 to 0. And I need to take another 1 to get to a total of subtracting 7. So that's going to take me to minus 1 as my answer. So the answer to question A is going to be minus 1 or negative 1. For question B, we're being asked if Lisa inputs negative 5, what is the output? So I'm going to complete this question using exactly the same stages as I did for everything else, like I did with this example with the positive number. So I'm going to do negative 5, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. You may already be screaming at your screen that the answer to that is negative 10. We know that's the case because I'm doing negative 5, and I subtract another 5 from it to get the answer of 10 here. Once I've got that negative 10, I now need to subtract another 7. So negative 10, subtract 7, I'm going another 7 down my number line, is going to give me an answer of negative 17. Finally, for C, this one's a bit of an extension, bit trickier, but let's have a go at it. If the output is minus 25 or negative 25, what is the input? Now, you've got to be really careful with this one because this is telling me the output number instead of the input number on this occasion. what that tells us is we now need to do the inverse of whatever we were told for the function machine. So instead of having an input and going through the steps, we're going to start with my output and reverse it. So I've started with negative 25 over here. And if I go backwards, normally I'd subtract 7, but to do the opposite, I need to add it. So if I do negative 25 and add 7, well, if we think about this on a number line to help us out, slightly wonky number line, but never mind. So I'm starting off with negative 25, and because I'm adding, I need to take my number back towards the 0 to make it larger. So I'd have 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. So that takes me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's negative 20 here. Then I need to do another 2 to get to negative 18. So I've now got negative 18 written over here. And this question, well, normally we'd multiply by 2, but I need to do the inverse, which is to say I need to divide by 2. The good news here is that dividing a negative number by a positive number is no more complicated than multiplying it. Just in the same way as if I do negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, we're just going to do exactly the same thing, but with division. So if I had 18 and I divide that by 2, I know that half of 18, or 18 divided by 2, is 9. Just in the same way that negative 5 times 2 becomes negative 10, that just means that negative 18 divided by 2 is going to be negative 9. So I'm dividing by 2 here. So my answer for what the input would be has to be negative 9. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense to you with how we apply this knowledge. The main thing is not to be scared by the fact that there is a negative in front of one of these numbers here. The key thing to remember is that we're going to do our multiplication or our division, in the case of this extension question, in exactly the same way as if we were working with two positive numbers, and then we're going to just put the negative onto the front of it to represent the fact that we're making our number smaller as opposed to making our number larger. Hopefully you found this useful. Leave us a comment or send us a message if there's anything else you want to ask in regards to this. And I hope you have fun doing your holiday homework as well. Have a lovely half term, everyone, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.